You had a really strong thesis for an episode about consumption that we recorded, and then it was like 4 hours long, and we decided to re-record it.
The first tuberculosis episode was I gave full medical history. Like, no one needed that much information, perspective.
We were finding it. We were feeling it out, and we were
was our
learning
beta episode.
how much Elizabeth can edit for free on her free time.
Not 4 hours.
Welcome to Vanity Veritas, where three vain friends dive into the history of beauty, fashion, and culture, trying to figure out how we got here and why we care so damn much. We're your hosts, Elizabeth Urbanczyk,
Chelsea Feltman,
and Kristina Cole Geddes. In this episode, we are doing something a little different. We thought that our beautiful audience maybe doesn't really know us. So today is our deep, intimate, getting to know you episode. And I think we're going to be led by Shelfel.
That's me. That would be me. I'll be our James Lipton for the evening. And if you don't get that reference, you were not a theater kid with cable in the 90s.
The way that we were so involved in learning about the craft of acting from fucking J-Lo.
But I was going to say it was always like Ben Affleck.
God.
Sometimes it was somebody very important. Sometimes it was Meryl Streep. And sometimes it was Ben Affleck.
Oh, it was incredible.
Right.
And all I wanted was to be asked the questionnaire. I've thought about my answers for decades.
When you step inside the pearly gates.
Oh.
If heaven exists.
Do you love?
If heaven exists, what do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
There it is.
Anyway.
All right, let's kick it off.
We have a bit of a questionnaire to get to know you. We're ready.
Are we ready?
No, never.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever got on the mic once and been like, yeah, real ready today, guys.
Feeling focused, feeling ready. Who are we? Who are you, Elizabeth? Where are you from? What do you do?
Who am I? Well, hi, listeners. If you don't know me, my name is Elizabeth. I live in upstate New York, and I am a tour guide at a major historic site up here in New York State. I just recently got my master's last year in history, and this is my first job out of grad school. Yeah, it's exciting. So yeah, I like working in communications, public programming, interpretation. That's who I am. I live in upstate New York in the capital region. I live with my cat. My annoying little cat Zipper, who occasionally likes to interrupt our recordings by jumping up on the desk. You'll hear one of those in an upcoming episode or maybe a past episode.
I was going to say, someday we've got to cut together all the Zipper moments that are actually edited out.
All the moments that she just comes up here, rubs her face against my mic and makes herself known.
Zipper!
Exactly. When I'm not here podcasting and when I'm not at work, things I love to do, I love to cook. I got into Dungeons and Dragons last year, so I watch a lot of actual play content. So if you're a Dimension 20 fan, what's up? And I am a really big political news junkie, which really sucks during an election year like this one. But yeah, so I love to cook. I love to watch millennials roll dice on television. And I love to doom scroll and listen to podcasts that give me anxiety. That's who I am.
Yeah. And Elizabeth, you just rolled right into question 2.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Thanks for saving us some time. Kristina, who are you? What do you do? What can you be found doing when you're not working on this podcast?
Oh, multifaceted question.
Well, I'm trying to keep it symmetrical with what Elizabeth did.
I like it. Hi, listeners. My name is Kristina. I live in Los Angeles, California. Born and raised Valley kid over here. I always have to say that because people for a long time when I was young, I'm an actor. And so I would go into auditions and they'd be like, oh, where are you from? And I'd be like, Los Angeles. And they'd go, no, honey, where were you born? And I would have to be like, oh, I didn't know, in the Valley.
I could give you directions to it from here.
Anywhere. Anyway. I am an actor. I used to be a tour guide at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We'll get a little more into detail about that later. I am here in LA now with my fam bam. I used to live in New York, but we moved back in the long inside of 2020. And now I have a cute toddler and a very stately man of a dog named Pancakes. He's 15,
I
and
thought you were describing your husband.
no, that's not how I would describe Max.
I wouldn't describe Max as stately.
The love of my life.
That's why I was
but
confused. I was
stately,
like, a stately man, and then you're like, my dog Pancakes. I'm like, yes, that is correct.
obviously. Obviously. Anyone who meets him knows that he's a public intellectual and a gentleman.
Yes.
My
That's
dog,
true.
not my husband. My husband also maybe those things, but they just cut that part out. I don't. Yeah, no, guys. Oh no, I don't know what to say about my family. When I'm not podcasting and when I'm not acting, I'm usually at home. I'm cooking for my family. I love to cook. I love to bake. And I'm probably watching like a pulpy period drama or some trashy Bravo television. I hate watching Emily in Paris, or I'm reading voraciously, probably something scandalous, because why not? Like, we only live once. That's how I'm feeling these days. And that's how I'm
Sure.
coping with the news cycle. Chel,
All right.
it's
I'm
you.
Chelsea. It me. I live in Philadelphia with my husband, our dog, and 2 cats. And I started out as an opera singer. I mean, I was not born as I didn't come out of the womb singing opera, but pretty shortly after, that's what
I
I
was about to
started
say.
doing. um, so my training is in classical music and opera. I spent about a decade plus as a professional gigging singer and actor. I used to live in New York City, which is where I met Kristina, but we'll get into that later. And I spent many years as a teaching artist, teaching voice, teaching theater, teaching, arts workshops, which I later left as a profession. And I now work as a facilitator for a nonprofit. And when I'm not working or podcasting with these 2 friendos, lately, I mean, I'm probably like trying to like keep my dog occupied so she doesn't like eat more pillows in my house. Um, which is a big problem I've been having. Uh, and I started rock climbing up a couple years ago,
Hell
and
yeah.
Oh.
it's one of those hobbies that, like, without intending to, it suddenly creeps in to take over your entire life, and, like, every weekend you're somewhere out climbing on a rock, and, like, it's time consuming, like, it takes a long time to, like, get out there and set up, so a climbing trip is, like a session of climbing is, like, 3, 4 hours, and suddenly all your friends are also rock climbers, and that's all you can do and talk about, so I'm trying not to let it become my whole personality, but it is taking up a lot of my time. I do also love to read. I try to keep it a nice mix of like highbrow literary fiction and really trashy smut. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love to explore restaurants in the beautiful city of brotherly love of Philadelphia because we've got a great food scene. And I love spending time with my wonderful husband.
I also like spending time with my wonderful husband. I didn't say that, but I'd like to just double down on that one if he's listening. I love
And
you.
listeners, I'm super single, and my number is.
All right. So, Christina, I'm going to kick this one over to you. Can you talk a little bit about how this podcast came to be? Where did the idea come from and how did we get here?
Why do we care so damn much? So, listeners, something you should know about me is like genuinely the greatest joy in my entire life is when my friends become friends with each other. Like, I love fixing my friends up with each other. Um, I have done it many times. I find myself quite successful at it. So, I'm going to take a victory lap for that one.
I have genuinely described you as like the Mrs. Dalloway of my life. Like, I think I
Wow.
mean, listeners,
You're a super
Christina is
connector.
the best host, like the best host if you're staying at her house, if she's throwing a dinner party. Like, no, truly you do it better than
Oh my
anyone. But
God. Okay, I'm
also
gonna
your
leave now.
talent, no,
This is my
your
crowning
talent,
glory.
your talent for bringing groups of people together is it's truly like a form of like social intelligence that like I don't have. It's pretty remarkable. So yeah, I have literally said she's the Mrs. Dalloway of my friend group.
Well, I'm gonna go cry now. Thank you so much. I can't do this anymore. Um, uh, Yeah, I'm the Mrs. I can't say it about myself. What an asshole I'll sound like. Um, but I do love connecting friends with other friends. I love connecting people together. And I had the great fortune while I was living in New York City of meeting Chelsea in a New York City acting class, which is like going through war together. And I had the great fortune of meeting Elizabeth on the first day that we started training for a job with a company where we were tour guides at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which was also like going to war together.
Yeah.
and um and over the course of several years got to know them super super well. These are both two women in very different settings who, as soon as I met them, I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna be friends. I'm gonna And I will say this, I think Elizabeth fell in love with me. I am not everyone's cup of tea. I don't make any assumptions to be. And I think there's a reason people might see me and go, not for me, maybe. And Elizabeth, I think, fell for me. Chelsea's face. I'm just being honest.
I was
But
like, I mean, when it comes to you, Christina, like, it was very much like, oh, she's really pretty. Okay, all right. And I was like, oh, God damn it, she's really smart and she's really funny. And I was like, oh no, oh no. And then we became friends and I realized that you're a great big old weirdo and a dork. And I was like, no, you can't have all of it. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to have all of it. Her one fault, she can't have gluten. And that's it.
no, no, no.
Bam.
You know what? There's another fault to this. I can't ride a bike. So I have more than one fault. And I hope you guys enjoy that.
It's no gluten and can't ride a bike. But other than that, she is a delightful person to hang out with. And we just sort of clicked in terms of our weirdness and loving to learn, but having a sense of humor. And so we had a lot of fun gallivanting around one of the greatest art museums in the world together and getting to know each other.
The most fun.
So
And
yeah.
I think I knew Elizabeth like the first day. I was like, fucking bomb human. So cool. Showed up so chic, so smart, so prepared. Uh and then Chelsea, I met, she came into our acting class and I rode the subway home with her, and she was impossibly cool and hot and like funny and interesting. And like, she was wearing a gray tank top and high-waisted jeans, and she looked so
Oh my
Brooklyn
God,
and
I
so
was.
chic. Yeah, I know. I remember because I saw you and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm never gonna be that cool." Like,
Impossibly chic.
and and then she's insanely smart and so funny. And then Chelsea and I ended up co-founding and running a feminist theater collective together for several years in New York, doing a lot of original works. And obviously, as we mentioned, I love to host. And Elizabeth and Chelsea would meet at parties at my house that I would throw all the time.
Mhm.
And I threw some really good fucking parties, you guys. So if ever you get a
Ragers.
chance, I really do throw a good one. But we were actually working on a musical with our theater company, and we brought Elizabeth on for one of the lead roles, and she fucking killed it. And then the pandemic happened, and I had all these chats all the time with two of my best pals sitting right here. And I don't know, one of you guys want to take it away for how we got here?
I mean, I just remember getting a text message saying like,
Do you want to do a podcast? Do you want to
yeah.
have our same conversations but record them and make them public? And I said, yeah, why not?
Well, what's funny is
And
originally it was supposed to be like 6 episodes. She was like, it's going to be like real low pressure. We're going to do like 6 episodes. And then the more we talked about it, we're like, oh, this is going to become a thing. We're going to do a
this is
lot
going
of
to be a
these
thing.
We
because
love
every
this.
ideas just kept popping up. And I think all of us, um, I, all of us had this sort of like creative and intellectual itch that we wanted to scratch in a very specific way. And this seemed like the right place to put that energy. I had just come off a really like intense academic master's program where I had to sound
Serious.
very serious, and I got really good at sounding serious, and I was like the one person in the discussion classes who was like we didn't mention this before, but I have a background in musical theater and I call myself a walking jazz hand, which is very weird in an academic situation because I used to say I'm surrounded by like mallards and I'm like the flamingo that comes into the classroom like hello, like that's how I've been feeling for the last 2 years. And I love my grad school classmates, they're wonderful people, but I was like I need more flamingos in my life, or I need this flamingo energy. And so
Which is
this was a
ironic because
really
I think flamingo is like one of Kristina's top worst fears.
Hate him. Song
She
today,
hates
hate him.
birds. But still, like, I needed a little more of that wacky energy in the research that I do. And this has always been a dream of mine. So I was really excited when Kristina reached out because I was like, I think she and I would make a good podcast together. And then she mentioned Chelsea and I was like, banger, let's do it. Sounds awesome.
Oh, that's so nice because I wasn't sure about you, to be honest. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. You set me right up. No, everything Kristina said is true, except I also, like, I watched you in acting class, Kristina, and I was like, who is this fucking famous, beautiful actress who is so good? And then you, like, followed me home and cornered me on the Q train.
Like a total creep.
I mean, I felt so special. I felt like the cool girl was coming over to be friends with me.
No.
And then Elizabeth, you have one of the most stunning belts. I like
Yeah,
vocal belts,
listeners,
not like
Vocal belts. I also wear belts.
I'm sure
she
you
does
will
wear
wear
great belts.
belts.
Listeners, you don't know this. Her voice is dumb. It's
fucking sick.
Both of them, I'm just going to be out here as the singerless one. Stupid voices on this pod. Maybe someday we'll get the privilege of hearing them, but like ridiculous.
But yeah, I just, my impression of Elizabeth was just this like totally vivacious, like actualized, talented person with just like such a strong point of view. And so I was just like very excited. It's like, well, if she'll talk to me, I'd be very happy about that. So I just feel really happy to be adopted into this really cool friendship. And yeah, I think, Kristina, you had a really strong thesis for an episode that about consumption that we recorded, and then it was like 4 hours long, and we decided to re-record it.
The first tuberculosis episode was like, I like gave full medical history. Like no one needed that much information.
No,
and we
but
were still
didn't.
finding like our
We
perspective
were
of
finding it. We were feeling it out, and we
it
were
was our
learning
beta
how
episode.
much Elizabeth can edit for free on her free time.
Not 4 hours.
It was so much. It was so much. And it was, the thing is, it's like, if you go back and listen to it, it's a fun episode, but it's like, this can't ever go on Spotify. It'll be 2 hours of so much information. Maybe one day when we hit it big and we can do like a Patreon exclusive, it's like, hey, here's our crappy first draft, the director's cut. Because it's so funny. We did like a test episode. We did a test episode together and we're like, great, we got it. And then we did tuberculosis. We're like, don't quite got it, but we're close. We're almost there. But like, then we found our groove.
We definitely had to find our perspective and how much we wanted to be academic and how much we needed to give a point of view. And we're still learning, we're still growing every day.
It's a journey.
I will say this. I was going through a really brutal time after I had my daughter, and I had a really difficult transition into motherhood for a lot of reasons. And when I was finally able to come out of that, the first week I was back to work as an actor, the writer's strike happened at the end of the week. And so then I went through the writer's strike and the actors' strike, and obviously very proudly stood with my unions. But I was really like, what is it that's missing from my life? And like, what is the creative thing that I want to scratch, but also this academic thing that I want to scratch? And I would have conversations with these two amazing women and be constantly in this space of like, we love beauty. We love fashion. We're obsessed with pop culture and like we love to participate in it. And we really wanted to have critical dialogue about it. Like, what the fuck is happening? And like, are we part of this systemic patriarchy that we're constantly in a hamster wheel about? And like, can we reside in both spaces while also making each other laugh? And the truth is on the phone, we could. And so I thought maybe on a microphone, we could do that too. And maybe other people would like it. And I think you do.
The feedback has been good.
Delightful, in fact.
All right. I'm going to move it along to the next question, and let's keep these a little bit rapid fire. So, Elizabeth, what is the one vanity you will not leave the house without?
I am a Hispanic woman. And as a Hispanic woman, there is no such thing as leaving the house without earrings on. If you do not leave the house, if you leave the house without earrings on, you may as well be leaving without a shirt on. Like, that is unacceptable. You know how you see a lot of like little Latino babies with pierced ears before they leave the hospital? My mother waited
Yeah.
until I was 2. That's how long I've had pierced ears. There's no such thing as leaving. Like I remember once I was on my way out with a roommate to go out for the night in New York, and there was a little mirror outside of the door, like in the hallway of our apartment building, and I saw myself in the mirror. I was like, "Oh shit, I don't have earrings on," and I turned around to go back, and he was completely baffled as to why this was an emergency, and I'm like, "There is no leaving the house. Like I could have no makeup on and be in my sweatpants just to go to the grocery store, and I'm like, boop, boink, boink, got to put earrings on. Always have to. That's
Wow.
yeah,
I
that is an
love
essential
that.
Love.
thing. Yeah, it's a
That's
very Hispanic woman
fascinating.
thing.
I love that. I love that. Christina, what is the one vanity that you will not leave the house without?
Okay, so my, like, PG answer is sunscreen. You know, my, like, not
Same.
PG, but, like, you know, the answer that's, like, the good answer is
Yeah.
sunscreen. But the real answer is probably most days it's mascara and blush because I am so fair everywhere that if I don't have any, like, context to my face, I look like a thumb. So
She doesn't.
I do. I have, like, blonde eyelashes and, like, just it all becomes one color. So, like, at minimum, it's, like, a little blush. Like, I'll almost always have, like, just a touch of something here and then usually a little mascara. I'm not proud of it, but, you know, I just no one wants to, like, walk around, like, stickly every day.
That is such a specific reference.
What a
Wow.
specific pull. What a great pull. Wow.
And you,
Chels?
Chelsea.
Yeah, for me, I will say, um, I also considered saying sunscreen, but also that and it's true, but it feels a little bit it's
Blah,
true, but it
blah.
feels a little bit like do-goody,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Performative.
yeah, yeah.
Performing for my
I
dermatologist every day, baby.
so so here's the thing, I wear a lot less makeup on the regular than I used to. I've kind of gotten used to my face without a full face of makeup, to where even if I put on what used to be like a normal amount, it feels very done up to me, and then you add that in with, like, my skin is aging, it's drier, like, it's just, like, things are different, and so I wear a lot less makeup than I used to, but I do my eyebrows every day. I don't leave the house like, my eyebrows for me are like earrings for Elizabeth. If my eyebrows aren't penciled in and brushed and, uh, s you know, arranged how I like them, I feel completely undone and just, like, naked. Um, and the thing is, like, I have one eyebrow that just sits a lot higher than the other one, so I have, like, fixed the other one with, like, artificially. And no, I'm sure that it's actually, like, half a millimeter, like, I'm sure no one else can see
Yeah,
it, but to
100%. I've stared
me,
at your
I
face
feel like
so
I
many
have,
times.
like Two-Face from Batman, like, I feel like
Wait,
I feel like
audience?
it's so noticeable.
It's also because your glasses are so
Yeah,
horizontal
so
on top.
straight.
You really
Right, you really can see it's like a level showing where the asymmetry
Can I also
is.
just say I did Chelsea's makeup for her wedding. I have
She
stared at this
did,
woman's
she
face
did.
so much. Her eyebrows are perfect. They're exquisite, but I had the image of, like, the old moleskin eyebrows that they used to put on, and you're, like,
Yes.
prosthetically laying your eyebrow on every morning.
Oh my
No,
god.
they need a little pencil and a little brushing and a little gel, but I'm very vain about my eyebrows.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think they're good, but they require maintenance, and I am putting in the work.
I love it.
Uh,
They're
all
the
right.
they're the windows to the face, right? What is it?
The valances, the
The
eyes are the
val
windows to the soul,
Eyebrows are the
eyebrows are the
valances to the
valances.
eyes of the face. I realize your one other thing, like your eyebrows are my hair. Listeners, if you've never seen me, I have a pixie cut. And when you have a
Yeah.
pixie cut, you either do your hair or you find a hat. And
Yep.
there are days where I just don't leave the house because I don't want to bother having to do my hair. So that's another one where you're like,
It's so true. Don't let anyone ever tell you short hair is low maintenance. You will be styling the shit out of it every
yep,
day or
every day, every day.
covering it with a schmata. Yep. Right. Oh, I'm so excited for this question. Okay. Favorite period of history and or historical figure? Elizabeth, go.
This is very hard as someone who studies history. But Especially when I was in school, I really fell in love with the 1930s. I've always loved the 30s
Mm.
aesthetic, just sort of in terms of like fashion, but also it's a really interesting chapter in history. It's during the Depression.
Yeah.
We're coming out of Prohibition. There's a lot of labor organizing happening. So yeah, I really fell in love with the 1930s. One of my guilty pleasure movies is The Cradle Will Rock, if either of you have ever seen
Mhm.
that. It's a
Oh.
bit ham-fisted, but it is a delightful romp through vaudeville and theater in the 30s. Um, and yeah, it's the 1930s. I don't really have a favorite historical figure. That's impossible to choose. But yeah, I do have an affection for the 30s here in the United States.
I love that. Christina, favorite historical period or figure?
I think I have to say it's the Gilded Age New York.
Mm.
Like, I'm pretty obsessed with the Gilded Age. I'm really obsessed with the Vanderbilt specifically. I, like, spent a
Oh yeah.
lot of time research so deep, and Elizabeth knows I like my husband and I for our anniversary one year, he took me up to the Breakers in Rhode Island and was like, "We're gonna go
Mm.
see the Gilded Age mansions," and I was like, "Ah!" Um,
You know me.
I was so jazzed because it's just, like, ridiculous how opulent it is, and I also think that there's a lot of parallels to where we are right now, to the Gilded Age then.
For sure.
And, yeah, I also just, like, gotta throw this one out because it sort of spans from from the Gilded Age to, like, the early 1920s is, the Heterodoxy Club, which is a club for, women who, don't fit the social norms in New York City's West Village for this very brief period of time,
Mm.
and I will someday figure out a way to shoehorn it into this podcast. I will, like, figure out a way, but, do yourself a favor, like, quick Google Heterodoxy Club. It is so interesting and so cool, and, yeah, that's my short, long answer. Chelsea,
I've really thought about this, and it's a tie between the 1100s and the 1700s.
you're such I why, of course. Of course it is. You fucking
Oh my
weirdo.
god.
Say
The
more.
I
Say
know.
more.
I know, I
1100s.
know. Okay. So, yeah, the 1100s, like, I'm really obsessed with medieval nuns. Like, they were so
Mhm.
wild. They were, like, writing books and, like, brewing beer and, like, writing these like, having crazy visions and, like, living this, like, kind of, like, queer utopias, basically. So I'm
Totally.
just really obsessed with that, like, talking about favorite historical figures, like, it's gotta be Hildegard von Bingen for me. Like, there are others, but she'll always be at the top. Go look her up if you don't know who she is.
Yeah.
Um, and there's not enough
Whoa,
time for
really?
me to
Elizabeth?
I don't know that name.
Oh my
Oh,
god,
Medieval Europe
we
Elizabeth.
don't
medieval Europe is not my go-to. So yeah, I'll
we
Google her. I'll learn all about her. She'll be a whole
Oh,
episode. Who
yeah.
knows?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
She
she
can
will be a whole
actually,
episode.
she will be. Great. This is my she was an it girl too. Um,
Not wrong if we spin it right.
so, yeah, I mean, I love and I think, um, the medieval period is so much more fun and colorful and, like, feminist and, like, kooky than we think it is. Like, we have I think the popular conception of medieval Europe is this very, like, dark, muddy, gross, regressive time, and, like, you just, like it's really unfair to look at it that way. I think there's so much more to it, and it's really fun and wild, and then similarly, the 1700s, I mean, like, look, I love the fashion, like, you got harlots, you got Amadeus, you got dangerous liaisons, like, I love it. It's like
The
we're
hits
sort of,
keep
like,
coming.
seeing, like the hits keep coming,
Mm.
and also, I think it is if you get into, like, the culture and the literature, it is a much more, like, kinky, funky time than people would realize. Certainly more than the 1800s, and I think it's really interesting that we were in this sort of, like, flamboyant, silly time that was also, like, the Enlightenment era, um, that was, like, way more open and fun and free than the Victorian era. I think it's really important to realize that, like, history is not in a straight line of getting more progressive as we're seeing
Mhm.
today.
Oh,
But
yeah.
especially like when you look back at the, what were considered norms in the Middle Ages or the 16 or 1700s, like it's really not a straight line towards everybody having more rights and women being more free. There are periods of, I don't know. That's all I'll say about that. And I think it's really funny that basically like the little like the 18th century like face dots have come
Yeah.
back in the form of zit stickers.
Yes.
Oh my god, you're right. I
Yes.
never even thought of it that way.
Little side note, because like they've gone from being like invisible to like all the cool kids who work in my climbing gym wear like stars and moons and hearts.
Oh, I fully wore a star to set, like, forgot, and I was just like, "Fuck it, whatever, it's a blue star.
You
I'm
look
cool
like a
and
cool
young."
Gen Zer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what they thought when they saw my 36-year-old ass roll in.
I
What
have
a
to
cool
remind
Gen Zer.
myself I have to remind myself when I try to do something cool, I'm like, "You turn 40 in 3 months." Like, let's all calm down with your zit stickers. All right.
But I love that we're all approaching 40 and still getting zits that need to be covered with stickers.
Hell yeah.
Yep,
I also love the
I
stickers.
was told that that would stop. It has not.
it has not.
More beauty lies we have been peddled.
But the sebum will keep us young. All
Well.
right. A party fact or a trick that you like to drop, Elizabeth.
Mine is so dumb, and I never get
Tell
to do
me.
it.
Oh, it's an
So
actual trick.
it's an actual thing I know how to do. So listen, 2020 was rough for a lot of us, and we all found ways to cope. And one of I okay, so
Where's this going?
you know that town in Wales that has a really long, ridiculous name.
Yeah.
No.
I okay,
I can
uh,
picture it. I can't say it.
yeah, it's about 1,000,000 miles long. It's in Welsh, and I taught myself how to say it. I taught
Oh
myself
my
how to
God.
pronounce the name of the
Can you
town.
say it right now for the pod?
Yes. I want to just, in case anybody from Wales or who understands Welsh is listening to this, I did this mostly phonetically, and I don't know if I put the right emphasis on the right syllables, but it all comes out in like one big, so it's Thank you.
Wow. A round
Thank
of
you.
applause for
Fucking
that.
nuts. Look
It
at
is.
And you got that
go.
beautiful
Yeah,
sound.
it's
sound.
there's a lot of in Welsh. It's
I
like
love
Yiddish.
it.
There's a lot of so yeah.
Oh
And
my goodness.
it was listen during the pandemic. I finally got around to seeing Rocket Man, which stars Taron Egerton. He's from there, and every interview he does on television, they ask him to say it as his party trick. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to say that because what the fuck else was I doing in my lockdown in my studio apartment in 2020? I was finding things to do and I was like, I'm going to learn how to fucking say it. And then I did. And now it's just locked up there in my brain. So you're welcome, kids.
That was
Thank
great.
no, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
I have seen that like picture, the famous picture of like the sign that says you are now entering.
Yes.
And so now I love that now I can listen to it over anytime I
I'm just gonna go
press
click
play
Elizabeth's
on this
voice.
episode. Yeah. Kristina, what's your party trick or fun
Well,
fact?
mine's like not fun now. I feel embarrassed by mine.
Don't you
No.
dare. Mine is useless unless I am in Wales.
I feel like the party fact that ends up coming up the most, that I get the most, like, besides it used to definitely be a lot of things regarding tuberculosis, which, like, oh my god, wait, Elizabeth just dropped the typography of this into the chat. That's not real.
That's real.
It's
No, it's
real.
not. That's
I swear to
Zipper
God.
just stepped on your keyboard.
That's what Welsh looks like when written
Oh
out.
my god. Wow. You're a genius.
I don't think I am. I just learned it phonetically. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to steal your
No,
thunder.
it's
Go
okay.
ahead. What is your fun one?
Okay, my fact is, besides it used to be a lot of tuberculosis stuff, but that's, like, not really fun to tell people they wanna look sick. The fun fact that ends up, like, I feel like stirring the most at a party is when I tell people that everything in ancient Greece and ancient Rome was painted in neon colors and that all the statues were painted in different skin tones, like, ranging from the darkest mahogany black to, like, the fairest pale, European skin, and people, like, lose their fucking shit when you pull up some of the images of, like, the clown colors that these things
That's
were
a
painted in.
really good one. That's a really, really good one.
It's just like a fun way to really disrupt people's brains. And actually, we were just talking about this because it might come up on an episode, but it's called the Tiffany conundrum.
The Tiffany
The
effect.
Tiffany problem.
The
The
Tiffany
Tiffany
problem.
effect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because apparently in ancient Rome, Tiffany was a very common name, but
It
people
was
don't.
also a name in medieval Europe.
Yes. And like people
Yeah.
don't believe it. If you see it in
Yes.
modern iterations
Right.
depicting
Right.
that time,
It would seem like an anachronism,
but it's not at all.
but it's not. I also recently read that Chad was a name because Chadwick is a
Hilarious.
very old British name.
Please put a Chad and a Tiffany in a period film and watch people lose their fucking minds.
A medieval romance.
Listen, I see enough women with like block brows and barrel curls in period
Yeah.
dramas. Give people the names
Right?
Chad and Tiffany. They'll be the
Give 'em
realest things in those series.
Give me the Ballad of Chad and Tiffany.
Fantastic.
Well,
Oh my God.
so that's my party fact. Chelsea?
Okay, well, see, now I feel bad because mine is kind of like a brag, but
No, brag!
if I'm being completely honest, the fact that I share whenever I have like an interview or an icebreaker and they're like, share a fun fact about yourself, my fact is that I was on Jeopardy.
Yes, she was.
My dream. That's right. You were. I actually almost sat down the other day to take the quiz. Sorry, talk about
You
it.
absolutely should know,
Really
Elizabeth.
wanna go on
Like you
Jeopardy.
should,
Yes,
you
you'd
should
be
take the
great.
test. They would love you. They would love you. Um, But yeah, that's my fact. It has gotten me, I'm fairly certain, to like the second and third round of like job interviews just because people are like, "Oh my god, you must be a genius."
You
And
are a
I'm
genius for the record.
I'm
People don't realize how smart Chelsea is. It's stupid.
but I'm like, yet I'm
Saying.
incapable of like some of the most basic things. But anyway,
We all have our skills. We all have
we
our,
all have
our
our skills.
spheres of knowledge, and some of us are really good with a buzzer and random trivia.
I have a head for like crosswords and just like remembering random facts and like connecting weird things, but I'm also like I bump into walls all the time. So, you know.
Listeners, I do just have to say, I'm so sorry. I am a hype woman at the end of the day. Like these two pals of mine, they're so smart and so talented. It's really ridiculous. It's really silly. You guys just need to know that. And they're sitting here being very humble about their brags, but like it's so fucking nuts. It's nuts being with them. Anyway,
Likewise.
All right.
everyone's deep exhale.
Anyway. All right.
Sincerity.
On
Oh,
a
Jesus.
lighter note.
Next
Okay,
question.
next question. What is your perfect fika? Now, if you don't know, fika is like the Swedish afternoon coffee break. I think it's a really wonderful tradition
Oh,
and
yeah.
a favorite part of the day. So, I guess to break down this question, what's your coffee order and what's your little snack or nosh that you're having to go with that coffee? Elizabeth, you go first.
Mine is like super basic. And I think it's just because it's the first thing I thought of and it was like the most comforting thing that I could think of. I was a barista for 10 years. I should have a more
Oh, no
complicated
kidding.
Oh yeah, I did it for longer than anybody should be a barista who doesn't plan on opening a cafe on their own. Like I was a barista for so long. I can still do the latte art. I still got it. So everybody thinks I'm going to have like a really complicated coffee order or I'm like into like an AeroPress single origin. No, I like it's kind of bougie beans. I won't mention the brand name, but I like a bougie bean. But then I make it in my Mr. Coffee and I put vanilla in it. But yeah, so usually my coffee order is something large, something iced with a couple pumps of vanilla and whole milk. I always like vanilla in my coffee. And then for like my little snack, I think it's got to be something like a nice, like warm, fresh chocolate chip cookie. That's I used to work at a French bakery in New York. I was a barista there, and I'm pretty sure I lost 5 pounds just by not working there anymore because they had sensational, big, fat, like the big round elementary school
So good.
size chocolate chip cookies, and
Ugh.
they were
Remember when they were
mwah.
just
So
giving us
delicious.
huge cookies as children as a snack? And that was like, they were like, yeah, that's good. I miss
Sounds
that.
great. Yeah, I still do it. They have a deli where I work, and they have big cookies. And every once in a while, I'm like, you know what I need today? A big
Yeah.
stupid chocolate chip cookie.
Love a big
Um,
cookie.
but yeah, a
Yeah.
big
Love
a
a
big
big
iced coffee with a
cookie.
little vanilla and milk and a nice warm baked chocolate chip cookie. That's mine.
Christina,
so
what's your
good.
fika?
Okay. So I sort of have two. I'm going to cheat. My coffee was almost always going to be a double cap with whole milk or like a flat white. They're They're basically the same thing. Most baristas I know are like, I don't really care which one you order. They're the same in my mind. So, depending on how bougie I'm feeling when I order it, I might be like, "I'll have a flat white," and then I feel better about myself somehow, but it's the same thing.
God, the day that New
Um,
Yorkers discovered flat whites, we never heard the end of it.
yeah, it's just a cappuccino, you guys. It's just like a wet cappuccino. But it's that, like, pretty simple, no sugar, no sweeteners, no flavorings. And then it's the, bittersweet grapefruit and dark chocolate, loaf from, Ashley Rodriguez, who did the
Mm.
cookbook Date Night In, and she used to have, Not Without Salt was her blog. I don't know if she still has it, but it's, like, one of my all-time favorite, like, cake loaf recipes. It's the tits.
Nice.
Why have you never made this when I've
I
been at your
have made
house?
it for you.
What
Absolutely, you've
the
had this.
fuck? I would remember.
Ladies, to your corners, to your loaf
Okay.
corners.
I would be shocked if, like, because I feel like I used to make it all the time, like, anytime people were around, it would, but also I feel like when we make it, it, like, barely lasts because
I ate it so
it
fast I don't
gets
remember.
but,
It's
like,
like
it gets
deviled
pumped
eggs.
in the house. I'll drop the recipe into our chat,
Drop the
okay?
recipe.
Yeah,
Both
sounds
would
good.
really enjoy it. It's fucking bomb.
Um,
Yeah,
okay.
Chelsea. What is your
So
fika of choice?
if I'm, like, going to a cafe for something nice, I've been really enjoying for my afternoon coffee, an oat milk cortado. I don't typically have dairy. I like the cortado. It's, like, a really sensible size, but it's, like, a little bit smoother than just, like, taking a shot of espresso.
Yeah.
I think it's just, like, such a sensible, restrained little drink, and I love it. Um,
Like, I love that you're
if
talking
there
about
is a
restrained.
it's such
It's
a
a very
tasteful
I
drink.
came in with
restrained.
like, I need a 20-ounce
Yeah,
cold
yeah.
brew with fucking syrup in it. And you're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Don't get me
exactly.
wrong, I love a cold brew with some, like, caramel syrup, but, um, if I'm being, like, my classiest self, it's an oat milk cortado, and, if there is a good I sound like such a fucking pretentious
No,
bitch.
no, no, I have
If
a comment about this when you're done.
if there is a good almond croissant available,
ooh.
that is my favorite, that is my favorite. However, if it's not a good croissant, I don't want it. Like,
I cannot explain to you the exact science of this, but somehow you loving 1100s nuns makes so much sense with the exacting nature of your coffee order.
It's so,
really?
fantastic.
These 2 things track so hard.
I also love that you talked about how a cortado is a little smoother than just straight up espresso. Because I do love, like, again, I'm Hispanic, I'm Cuban, so we love some espresso with some sugar in it. But I remember I was working at a cafe once, and this young guy came up, and he clearly did not drink espresso. He was not an espresso drinker, but he had heard that drinking it would give him some caffeine. And so he asked for a double shot. I made it for him. He grabbed it immediately and shot it like tequila and learned that espresso is brewed at like 170 degrees
Oh,
Fahrenheit. He learned that
no.
real quick. So I like that you understand the sophistication of a little cortado and that it is meant to
Yeah,
be sipped slowly and not
slowly and
shot
savored.
like a tequila shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you ever come to my parents' house at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when it's time for cafe. And cafe is a little bit of
Oh.
a cafecito in the afternoon. If you're ever at my parents' house,
Yes.
we all
Yes,
get a little
please.
cafecito.
I
I
love
would love
it.
that.
Mhm.
Ugh.
I was just working
So, yeah.
in Greece, humble brag. I was just working in Greece and, it was amazing because in Greece, people drink coffee all day long, which I didn't realize, and I'm someone who is usually quite sensible about my caffeine intake, and I was drinking 6 coffees a day.
Oh, but it's so good.
It's
Greek
so good, you
coffee.
guys, but I was like
So
fucking
good.
Judy Garland there, like, just jittering, and when I got home, I couldn't figure out if I was getting sick or just having withdrawals.
Just
Like,
Oh,
fucking
Greek coffee,
crazy.
Turkish coffee, love
So
it.
good.
Oh, so good. Um, all right. I can't believe that it's time for our last question. It's really more of a fill in the blank. Um, I will die on this hill. Elizabeth, what is the hill that you will die on?
So I tried there are many hills that I will die on. I'm a very opinionated person, but I wanted to sort of keep it in the realm of what it is that we do here on this podcast. So I will die on this hill. I believe every woman or every person who might want to wear it can look amazing in red lipstick. I do not believe when people say I cannot pull off red lipstick. You can, you just have to find the right shade. And I also, additionally, I believe that if you say you don't like wearing it or you think you can't pull it off, you are afraid of the fact that it is a deliberately attention grabbing color. Nobody wears a red lip to blend in. You wear it to be noticed, right? And I think that that is a hurdle for some people to get over, to have a very look at me cosmetic choice. I'm like, wear the Rihanna Fenty red uncensored. It will change your life. Everybody will compliment you on it, or find whatever red looks right on you. But yeah, I will die on the hill that everybody looks good in a red lip. You just have to get over your own hurdles to wear it, because it's one of the greatest things you could do for yourself. And always remember, Hitler hated red lipstick. So red lipstick is genuinely anti-fascist. So wear a red lip in your tiny little bit of resistance. That's why it took off in the 1940s, was as a resistance to Hitler. So take that as you will, listeners, in our current political climate.
This is such a good one. I love that, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a good
Kristina,
hill.
what's the hill that you're going to die on?
Okay. I don't think this is controversial, but I'm prepared for some pushback. I think flare jeans are perennial and there's no more stylish pant. I think a flare pant is the most perennial style. I think you always look chic. I think the 70s is kind of one of the best moments in time for fashion, when we have equal parts that we can play in menswear as women's wear. And I just think that a flare pant, a high-waisted flare, is fucking always good. I almost never see someone in a fab flare pant and think they look like shit. That's what I think.
I agree with that.
Wow!
Golf claps for that one as well. No, totally. I mean, I'm also tall, so a flare jean, or jeans I don't have as much of an issue with. But no, I think flare jeans look great. But I also do have the PTSD of being in middle school in the late 90s and late 90s for middle school, where everything was Delia's catalog big bell bottom jeans, when we were doing 70s all over again, 60s and 70s all over again. So I have to remove that from my brain when I take a look at flare jeans. I'm like, oh no, they're gonna drag in the snow, and they're all gonna get all dirty.
Oh my God, the dragging flare jeans on the ground. It was disgusting.
Exactly. When you stepped on them on the back, it's hard to get that out of my brain.
I'm short and I have short little leggies. And I just feel like a flare jean, it's a perfect place to tuck whatever kind of shoe, whether you're wearing a flat or a high heel. You can
This is true.
really balance however you want to proportion your body, I feel in a way that you can't necessarily with other pants. I mean, Chelsea knows this because she's seen me, but I wore flares when it was very uncool to wear flares and gave no fucks about it.
You have consistently always been in flare jeans.
Thank you.
Since I've known you. And it looks like this intrinsic piece of your style.
Thanks.
Which is the coolest thing, because it never looks like you're following a trend. It just looks like you have this really signature style. And I have a pair of high-waisted flares in my shopping cart at a very famous retail store's website. And you've just convinced me to pull the trigger.
And I hope I've convinced you, listeners.
Wait until Black Friday.
I know.
Keep an eye out.
Oh, I mean, that's why I haven't done it yet.
Tonight we're going to buy a lamp somewhere because I really need one. And I was like, can I wait 5 more days?
I'm just checking my email every day. I'm like, when does it go on sale?
We're sick. Chelsea, what is the hill you are going to die on? Is it something really chic and fabulous? You fucking bitch.
And sophisticated?
Yeah. No. It's not. I was like, maybe I should do sunscreen, because I have actually yelled at people who don't wear sunscreen every day. I have bought people sunscreen. I'm really big on the Korean sunscreens. I feel like, to paraphrase Charlotte Palomino, who is the founder of Dew Skin and a really big sunscreen advocate, it's kind of like red lipstick. You just need to find the one that works for you.
Yeah.
Find the one you're going to wear every day. And I feel like I'm constantly just yelling at 20-year-olds to wear sunscreen because they don't think they need to. This shouldn't be controversial. You need to do this every day. Everybody listening, go, if you're not wearing sunscreen, go get some sunscreen. It's really, really good. 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 It's really, really good.
Go wear sunscreen.
Turn off the podcast and put it on. And if you need a recommendation for sunscreen that feels great and isn't sticky or greasy, like come talk to me. I will set you up with some sunscreen. So I guess that is the hill I'm going to die on. I had another one prepared, but I think it's the sunscreen.
Wait, but
You seem
I
very
kind of want to
passionate
know
about it. Yeah, now I want to know
Yeah,
the other one is.
I want to know the other one too.
Okay, so the other one is I have a lot of tattoos, and I think that as a person with a lot of tattoos, I don't think a tattoo has to be perennially meaningful. You don't even have to love it forever. I think that there is a certain amount of like accepting that just like everything else on your body, it's going to change and your feelings about it are going to change and it's not going to look as good as you get older. And that is just kind of part of the beauty. I recently had a tattoo that I got done in my early 20s that no longer resonated with me, wasn't aging super well, had never like really been what I wanted, but at the time I didn't have like the vocabulary or the budget or the awareness to like really seek out and get what I wanted, and I had it covered up and I love it now. And I just think that if you're thinking about getting a tattoo, like get it. It's not that big a deal and you can always change it. Like you can cut it's really cool. You can cover it up. Or you can like have this perennial reminder of the person that you used to be and like it becomes this constant practice in like having grace for that person and thanking that person for getting you from then to now.
It's like
And
scrolling
so
back
I
through
just
your Facebook memories. You're like, oh,
yeah.
remember who I was when I was 25? She was fun.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, I just think it's a really good exercise in self-acceptance
Yeah.
and watching yourself change. And one time an older man said to me, "Oh, you got tattoos? What are you going to do when you get all old and wrinkled?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know. What are you going to do?" And that's that on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
I
that.
love that.
I love that.
Yeah. Also, shout out to one of our friends, Drew, who very famously goes back on his own Facebook and comments on his own old statuses. It's incredible.
I have definitely gone back to my Facebook and deleted things that I found problematic in the past. I was like, oh, you know what? I wasn't a fully formed human being. I didn't understand
Yeah.
the world well enough at that time. So you know what? That doesn't need to live on the internet anymore. We get to get rid of that.
Yeah, I should really clean that up.
Yeah,
I just love
I
that
need
he
to
like
do an audit.
yeah, he doesn't do any of that. He literally will just like leave a post up that's so aggressive and he'll just comment on it and be like, "Oh, bud, what a time, huh? Not good." And like
Speaking to yourself in the past.
so
I love
funny.
Oh
it.
God. That's a
We
Mad
funny art
respect.
piece, just the conversations you had
It's
with yourself in the
genius.
past.
with your past self.
It's
Ugh,
so good
It's like, wow, you felt really strongly about this absolutely nonsense thing.
every time.
we love a self-aware
Yeah,
and
yeah.
introspective king. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for participating in this questionnaire and
Wait,
for
how does
allowing me
James Lipton wrap it up? That's what I need you to do.
Oh, is it the if heaven exists?
Well, after the questionnaire, he says, he looks at the guest and goes, here are your students.
Oh,
And
that's
Oh my
right.
God,
the
you're
Q&A.
right!
Yeah, here are your students. And then he walks away.
Jennifer
And we're-
Lopez, here are your students.
That's how it ends. Do we want to give the listeners a little bit of a taste of what we have cooking for season 2?
Oh, want to smell what the rock is cooking? Yes,
A little peek into our group chat where we're like, how about this? Is this
Yeah.
something?
We every
Yeah.
once in a while float the idea of publishing like snapshots of our group chat, and the reality is it's so unhinged.
It's intellectual workshops followed by memes, and
A lot of memes. A lot of memes.
that's the best kind of group
TikToks.
chat, y'all.
Wait, yeah, no, let's do this. Let's do this. Christina, what are you excited about coming up?
I'm pretty jazzed. I've got a few things percolating for sure, and we've always got multiple fires in the iron in terms of research we're doing and like episodes ahead of us. But two that I'm really, really jazzed about and actively researching right now are one, the history of weddings and how we got to this
Nice.
new place where weddings feel much, much bigger than they did even 50 years ago, and definitely way bigger than 200 years ago. And then the other one is the history of cameras and how cameras have changed the way we view faces very significantly. I think we forget sometimes that, a face for cameras is a really specific thing, but a selfie camera is different than 35 millimeter camera. And cameras are very different than an oil painting. So I'm really excited
For sure.
about both of those. And I'm really interested to see how the research plays out.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Elizabeth, what are you excited about?
One is a potential deep dive on a country star that beloved by everyone, and is basically a drag queen. So yeah, we think there might be a nice little
Ooh,
deep dive on Dolly Parton and maybe sort of like the history of female country singers in the 20th century.
love that.
And then my other one that I'm super excited about that might turn into just an absolute behemoth, who knows, is talking about the history of fashion and women in politics. I think after our last few election cycles, I really started thinking about how women have to present themselves publicly when they are achieving higher office or going for higher office, and the line that they really need to tread, and how we think about masculinity and femininity. And we might talk a little bit about the Fox News blonde. She might make an appearance as well in terms of reinforcing or maybe subverting gender roles when it comes to women in politics and power.
Awesome.
How about you,
I'm
Chelsea?
excited. I got a few ideas cooking in the old noggin. Y'all can tell me, everybody listening, like tell me which one you're most interested in, because I've been thinking about history of underpants, like
Yeah.
specifically the thing that goes on your butt, like the underwear. And I've been thinking about the history of short hair on women, because I think that's
Mm.
Mm.
pretty fascinating and actually like pops up in history in some unexpected times that again, it's that Tiffany problem. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
um and then I also back to my 12th century nuns. I actually found this medieval medical slash beauty book that was written by a woman
Oh, yeah.
in like the Middle Ages,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
early medieval period, and it has like recipes
No,
and remedies in
you
it,
got to
and
do
I
that one.
kind of feel like, yeah, I saved it for last because like we all know I'm gonna end up doing this one. So, um, but yeah, I don't really know how to do it unless I do all of the recipes and like review them for you. So,
Oh my
I mean, do a
God.
full Bernadette Banner and be like, let's make some weird hair dye from
Yeah.
the
let's
1800s.
right,
Yeah.
let's bleach our assholes.
Maybe not
Let's
that.
bleach.
Maybe not that.
I also please be careful bleaching your tush hole with the
Oh,
homemade
I don't think
medieval
that's really in
recipe.
there.
That feels like we got a big
It's like
disclaimer.
lye and arsenic.
Yeah, don't. Your poop
I
chute
don't
doesn't
think
want it.
I don't think that's really in there, but I'll do anything for science. Um,
And yeah, if there's
yes.
any if listeners, if you have some things that you're curious about, please let us know.
Oh my gosh, please send us your most burning questions. Like
Yeah. I mean,
Olson and Olson Detective Agency is on the case.
oh God.
Should we drop our email?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if you have any burning questions, comments, concerns, you just need advice, I mean, we can help with some of this, but you can shoot us an email at vanityveritaspod@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you. If there's something you want us to delve into, or if you have lovely things to say to us, gosh, we'd love to hear it. If you have mean things to say to us, I don't want to hear that.
Keep
You
it to
keep it to
yourself.
yourself. Keep
Yeah.
that to yourself.
But we really would love to hear from you. And we are always so excited to just play with an idea. That's 90% of what got us to do this is
Mhm.
batting around interesting historical beauty references.
Oh my goodness. Well, kids, this was fun. Hopefully you learned a little something about us. If you knew one of us and wanted to know who your friends' weird friends are, now you know, which is great. But we are so excited to come up with a second season for you. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. That's a good sign off. That'll work.
lunatics.
And that is our show. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, please tell your friends, and be sure to follow us on social media at Vanity Veritas Pod. We will be back in a little while for season 2. Please keep an eye out on social media for an announcement about when you can find new episodes. And in the meantime, remember, trends come and go, but vanity is timeless.